I really hope this is live. I don't know what I'm doing yet in this beta studio here, so I'm not quite sure it is going where it's supposed to go. Uh, let's find out. I don't. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know where it's going. Somebody's getting my stream and probably is not going to be very happy. I'm streaming to their channel probably. All right. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Woo.
Hey,
Hey,
success.
I heard it. Yay. I'm telling you, they don't make it easy. A lot of
I
things.
got an ad.
You know, a lot of things are going wrong. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. Everything's reset. Updates galore. I have to put Port Shesh in the video here. Can you wave? Can you? And I don't know why I can't add her as an NDI input. So whatever. It is what it is. But we're going to be going over some salty comments from that debate that I had. And plus, I dropped my keyboard and I lost my keys. I got to find them. They rolled somewhere, and so didn't have time to fix that. So, anyways,
Hopefully, I'll be able to see when you screen share.
yeah. Well, I mean, if you go to the video, I mean, the video's in the video description. If you follow along that, I also put compressors on the audio, and I put some filters on for noise gates. Hopefully, that might address some of the people were saying that we were all over for the audio, so I put a compressor on. But hopefully, it equals it out a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully that'll help.
Let's see, give me a 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
All right, I've maxed you. Yeah, that seemed to work. All right. First of all, who watched the debate, by the way? Got to tell you, I was expecting to get wrecked, but I guess I wasn't. So that was very nice because Cheshire was going to kill me. But what'd you think, Chesh?
All the comments are from me. All the salty comments are from me. I thought that poor kid was in over his head. That's what I thought. That's the best that I could give to him. Not like he wasn't rude, he didn't get belligerent, he wasn't an asshole. So like that's all good things, but he also like he didn't seem like he had a lot to say, which makes me think that he was like, though he didn't seem terribly comfortable, which could just mean that he's like he hasn't really been on streams before, the yada yada yada, like he's got it was his first time. I don't know if it was or not. I'm not sure. But he seemed like he didn't have a whole lot to say once you got into the specifics of the terms and why.
Yeah, and that's not really what I wanted to talk about either, because again, I'm so over trying to explain the basics to everybody, right? And I think we're well beyond that. I want to get into some of the I mean, I could have gone through him with my proof, for like weak atheism and theism. That would have been more interesting, or the special pleading argument. But no, we're going back to basics again. And for somebody who's trying to have an epistemological argument with me that doesn't know what a theory of knowledge even is, did you notice how many times, and again, I'm not trying to dismiss him, but did you notice how many times he just moved from beliefs to knowledge as if, oh, well, I'm talking about knowledge. I'm like, we're not talking about knowledge. Knowledge has nothing to do with theism. Theism is a belief, not a knowledge position.
Yeah, it's
knowledge, yes, but that's irrelevant.
Yeah, it's a matter of mixing up terms, but also at the same time, by the end he kind of got the point of like moving past
you're popping,
this.
Your mic down. You're
oh, sorry.
Bad, yeah.
My bad.
Yep.
By the end, he kind of got onto the train of, hey, we're finally getting past this part of the discussion and getting into why you should use different terms and why they're useful in some ways and not in others. And it seemed willing to have that conversation, which is a different conversation entirely, which is, where we should be going, quite frankly.
Well, and that's the discussions to be had, right? The actual arguments that I don't see a lot of people addressing. So it is what it is. I did actually take notes. I wasn't, kidding. I actually did take some notes. I thought he was going to school me. I don't think that he. What did I learn on that? I didn't learn anything that I didn't already know before. I think that he got exposed to things he didn't know before. But
you mean like what your actual position is?
That would help. But I think the point was that I was supposed to be schooled on the mistakes I made in the Duke debate. Did anybody see that happen? Because if it did, I didn't see it. I didn't
even really see you guys discussing that debate at all.
Which I thought was the point of the debate, right? I mean, that was the whole point. What did I get wrong? And like I said, I took notes. I mean, I'm sitting here, I got 2 pages worth of notes. And I didn't even get to half of these things because I was like, to claim the correct uses of atheism, agnosticism as a psychological state, what is knowledge? And it's just, it didn't go anywhere because I was like, dude, we're going back to square one again. And I'd rather have not done that. But he had a 10-minute opener, which I didn't know he was going to do, by the way. I thought this was going to be a back and forth. And he had a 10-minute opener. It's just, okay, well, by the way, did you notice something, Chesh? All the sources he had, I have actually read. Or I was familiar with them.
I think my favorite insult that I saw in the entire thing was, I think it was one of our old trolls who I haven't seen around in a while. I doubt he shut up at all anywhere else, but he's not around at all because he basically sadly sits outside in the rain and stares through the window wishing he could be allowed in, but he never is. And I think it was him that said it. I don't know, because I was just watching the chat, and it was that Steve McRae's blog nobody can read Steve McRae's blog because it reads like a preschooler or something, and I'm like, that's not a good insult. If a preschooler could read it, that is a good thing.
I'm trying to make it very simple.
Yeah,
I'm trying to break it down. Now, hey, look, go read my blog on Dr. Malpass's argument with William Lane Craig dealing with simple future and future perfect tense and countabilities using a bijection of numbers to the natural numbers, and tell me if that's on the precursor kindergarten level. Be my guest.
Well, it was also really funny because, like, oh, well, it's kindergarten level reading material, and it's like, then why hasn't anybody fucking read it? Why does nobody know what his position is then?
And I wasn't reading the live chat until the very end. I saw that he had posted something like pinned something, right? But I wasn't reading. I didn't read any of the live chat to the very end, so I got to go back and I got to see the funny comments. But
there's a couple that were pretty funny, yeah.
SJ asked how I missed the debate, how to go. Well, ask around. I mean, we're going to read the comments, and they are salty. But I got to tell you, so far, not one person has said I was wrong, or at least demonstrated it. I mean, that's
I think it actually went really well, as in it didn't go in too much of circles. Like, it didn't go in circles a bunch. He seemed to, once you explained it to him, seemed to accept the position. And then it also did well, as in, like, it didn't turn into a dumpster fire yelling match.
Yeah, I wasn't
not
going
like
to let that happen.
Yeah. Both people seemed like they were pretty calm by the time I was in there. I didn't see his opener, but I saw, like, I was like a little bit late, but everybody was like chill at the very least.
Yeah, Icarus says, person A, Steve, you overcomplicate. Person B is preschool level. Yeah, I can't win, dude. Outdone says to SJ, it was basically Steve just teaching his opponent basic philosophy.
Yes.
Now, I got a background of school.
Yeah,
this was because I was back in school, and I thought I was going to get educated. Again, not trying to be dismissive, and people are going to be like, read this comment, Steve is condescending. Okay, come on, I've done this for 8 fucking years. People telling me I'm wrong and they can't demonstrate it. Enough. But yeah, if it comes across as condescending, I don't really care at this point. If you say something's wrong, fucking demonstrate it. How hard is that to do? I don't understand that. Come at me, fine, but say I'm wrong. Show me I'm wrong. So far, nobody has. I don't get it.
Yeah, the only people that actually say you're wrong, too, are the people who don't understand your position. So it's a matter of, like, people are saying you're wrong and they just don't get it. Or they're just being assholes and they can't demonstrate it anyway. But I wasn't even counting those people, mostly because they don't count.
They don't count.
They're not part of my analogy here. Or they're not on my radar.
I think I can screen share with you here. I was going to screen share. Does that screw it up for you? Can you see?
I can see that, yeah.
I guess I could put you over here, and that might work.
Hello.
Let me see here. I want to be able to use you, of course, because that's what I do.
I mean, if you saw our stream from today, yeah.
Yeah. She started like getting jiggy with it and stuff. Yeah. All right, hopefully that'll work. All right, so the comments here, we're gonna like go through these. Again, there's not very many. It's only been about 3 hours ago it started, but only an hour ended.
I am kind of curious, actually. There is one thing I'm curious to see how Snake actually responds and starts behaving after this encounter.
He had a nice tweet. He was just like, I had a discussion today, basically. He just had a nice tweet. And I told him I wasn't going to dog him on Twitter. But I was like, afterwards, when we all got done with the live, I was like, I don't want him to be like Duke. Duke for a year went on and just got so butthurt. Still goes on, he's butthurt that he lost. And I mean, brutally got beat down. I mean, I don't think I brutally beat down Snake because I wasn't trying to, but I was educating him.
I will go ahead and recommend to anybody who's not sure about how bad Duke is butthurt, please go and take a look at the past that time of the month on my channel and jump to about an hour and 30 minutes in and watch from there. It's glorious.
Yeah, and my buddy Jacob.
It's a lot of butthurt.
My buddy Jacob said, "I don't have to demonstrate that I'm not convinced of anything." Yeah, I don't care about that. Sure, you don't. I don't think if you're not convinced, I'll take you at your face. I'm not going to ask you for a demonstration. You can't ask somebody about their psychological states, right? If somebody says that they believe or don't believe, I'm just going to take them at face value, right? That's the principle of charity.
Yeah, the only reason you would question that is if they're behaving in a way that is
that's a good point.
not conducive to whatever it is that they should believe.
There.
But yeah, there's a contradiction there. But however, at the same time, you can hold a contrary belief and act in a way that is inconsistent with that belief. On the other hand, it doesn't mean you don't necessarily believe it. It just means that you're inconsistent. Like you've got a personal inconsistency, but that kind of shit doesn't really translate well into a YouTube comment.
No.
It's more of a personal. You'd have to actually know the person or spend time actually conversing with them to be able to suss that out.
Yeah, it's also tu quoque. I mean, if I say, I'm against smoking and I'm arguing against smoking and I'm doing it by having a cigarette, it's a tu quoque fallacy. To say, well, it is a performance contradiction. Right? Smoking is bad for you, therefore you shouldn't smoke, but I'm going to smoke, I'm sitting there smoking. There's a performative thing to be had there, right? But it's not an argument against your actual argument, right? You can't say, you're smoking, therefore your argument's wrong. That is the exact thing for a tu quoque fallacy.
Right.
So we had a super chat.
Leophilius, hopefully I pronounced that right. 10 for 10 said, I thought at Steve eloquently answered Duke's questions the first time and then reiterated it concisely the second time. I just think Duke didn't want to listen. Shocker.
I thought the same thing. I mean, how many times can I explain it? And sometimes, like I said, I do like yes or no questions, right? I really do. But sometimes there needs to be a little expository. And I know when I think I need to have expository and when I allow my interlocutor to have a little expository. But sometimes if I say, hey, Chess, is your name Chess? You're like, well, let me get into the, am I a sovereign citizen? And I'm like, look, it's a simple fucking yes or no. Okay, don't spend 5 hours arguing stupid shit. No?
Did you or did you not know about this thing? Yes or no? Okay.
Pretty simple.
Right? Stuff like that.
Simple questions. You know what's funny is I even said, it was in the Atheist Experience Facebook group, and I was talking about something like simple questions deserve simple answers, right? And then they started saying, well, when did you stop beating your wife? And I'm like, that's a complex, that's called a complex question fallacy. Still answerable, and I have no problem explaining it. But when I said simple questions and they give me a complex question, do they not? They think it's a good counter argument, right? They're like, I look at this. I've owned Steve. I give him a complex question fallacy. Like, I don't know what a fucking complex question fallacy is. Really? But a simple question is something that's very simple. That is not a complex question fallacy. And by the way, most time these are not at all complex question fallacies. People say, well, that's a complex question fallacy to me. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's yes, it's simple. What is your name is not
yes or no.
What is your name is not a complex question fallacy. If I say, a complex question fallacy would more along the lines of, well,
when did you stop beating your wife?
Yeah, that's the canonical one. There's another one that's used about your brother. What was it?
When did you stop eating children?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, you get the idea. I don't even care right now. All right, so let's
you're all hopped up.
Oh, I have caffeine.
Let's look at some of these.
Gangs. Yeah, people are like, Steve's drinking. Fuck no, man. I had caffeine coffee. Now I'm drinking.
He's just got caffeine upon caffeine upon caffeine. He was just ready to go today. And also probably didn't help that every time you threw it back to that guy to say anything, he literally didn't. He was just like,
Oh, I know what it was.
He never said anything.
If I say, Chess, did your brother die in the war? Well, you may not have a brother, right? If you say,
I may not have a brother, or they may also have not gone to war.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. I mean, these are, so yeah, they smuggle in certain assumptions, right? But
right.
Yeah, so I thought that was odd. But okay, so let's go through these salty definitions. You can read these. My voice is.
Okay, this is going to be a little bit difficult. This was a very poorly moderated debate. Steve just talks and talks, and I don't think Snake ever got traction in the attempt of arguing his side. The Steve McRae guy came off as rude, arrogant, and condescending. Really? Because that's like the least amount of condescending I think I've ever seen you.
Nice.
You were super nice, and you did talk a lot, but you talked a lot because, one, you had a limited amount of time, and two, he didn't say anything.
I kept turning back on him. I kept saying, go for it, and he didn't really understand the topic, right? And by the way, James doesn't moderate these debates. He even says that. I even asked him. I said, James, when we get started on this, I had messaged him. I said, I'm going to ask him some questions and I expect him to answer. He's like, well, yeah, but I'm not going to force him to. And you guys do your own thing. And if he wanted to talk more, he could have asserted himself, but he did not. This is a debate.
Yeah, this is the way that James always runs these things.
Yes.
This is the way modern day debates has always functioned. This isn't like this isn't an equal time kind of conversation
I don't like
that's
that
happening.
format. I'm not going to front. I don't like the way James does it, but it's his channel, and I have to abide by his conditions, and I'm fine with that. Right? I should say this. It's not that I don't like how he does it. It's just that I do it differently. Is that better?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not the biggest fan of the format because I think it does need a little bit more moderation, but at the same time he specifically doesn't want to do it that way, and I'm not going to fault him for doing it that way. It's just I would do things slightly differently if I was him. Like I think James tries to do a lot of things all at once, and in doing so kind of misses out on controlling the conversation a little bit more or a little bit less, but that's entirely up to him and for him to do. I'm not going to fault him. That's not a fault, that's just a difference in style or difference in preferred method.
Yeah. That's my only main criticism about James when it comes to moderate. That's the channel. I don't like the way he moderates. I mean,
I think he should have a partner, and I think he should have a partner if he's going to be producing as much as he is, or he should get a producer. That would be my opinion. So that way he's not spending so much time in the chat or so much time trying to set stuff up or so much time in the background. It would be a lot easier if I think just to ease the amount of pressure that he's got on him during these discussions, so he doesn't miss stuff and things don't get as out of control as easily as they can sometimes.
Praise that I am is the producer for that, and he was there.
Was he?
Yeah, and Praise is the younger creationist. He's in the background. He does the producing. I happen to get along with Praise. He's a younger creationist, but we get along. We have for years. I've never had any ill will toward him whatsoever. So just because somebody holds a shitty position like younger creationism doesn't mean I don't have to. I have to dislike them. He's very cordial to me, and I've always been cordial to him. So, but I wanted the live chat to do this. Keep track of in these comments how many of them have actually shown that I was wrong or addressed the argument, right? Or if they're just personal, right? If they're personal, we're done.
Count on one hand the number that are actually going to be about your argument. Let's go.
I think I've already read ahead. It's one, I think.
You cheated.
Spoiler. All right, so would you guys agree that this is not these comments are useless to me? These provide nothing relevance to the actual argument, right? This is the Steve's a mean poopy head argument, right? And I don't care if people think I'm arrogant or condescending when I've done this for 8 fucking years and they're still at square one. All right.
Well, yeah, the thing is that, same with the next comment, right? Steve, okay, turn it over to you. Literally half a sentence later. Yeah, but you're not putting in how much time it took for him to say that one sentence because he had nothing to say.
Yeah,
Steve begins another over-talking diatribe that goes endlessly, such arrogance. Well, what are you supposed to do? Sit there and just wait for him for how, I feel like a lot of these people have never actually been in these kinds of debates or
Clearly
calls.
Not. Yeah, well, he kept going to knowledge, and I ask him a question and he answers something completely irrelevant. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with my question. What am I supposed to do? Look, when you're talking about beliefs, you're talking about beliefs, right? We're not talking about knowledge. Knowledge requires belief, but that's a different ball game. And I think what happens is these people throw these terms together and they're like, oh, well, a theist claims knowledge. Well, not all theists do. Some do, right? SJ probably claims knowledge. I disagree with her on it, but not all theists do. A lot of theists say, look, I don't know if God exists, but I believe that he does. That's, I think, the most common, right? Right. I know atheists the same way. Hey, I don't know there are no gods, but I believe there's none. Okay, this is rational. These are rational positions to have, right?
Yeah, well, that's where the discussion lies, right? The discussion lies once we get past square one, and you went into this with the foreknowledge that this was supposed to be already past square one, and you got in and we're surprised we're back at square one again. So Steve would have had to do a lot of talking just to get past square one again.
I mean, I thought I was there to be educated, right? I was going to be schooled that I got some things wrong. I did seriously, and I mean this. And again, I don't ever want people to agree with me because they feel like they're obligated to, even though I'll boot you from the live chat.
This one brought me up. But this comment's about me.
Yeah, well, no, get into that. Wait, get into that. Trust me. So, did anybody in that debate see anything that I learned, or anything that they taught me, or anything that I got wrong? Was there anything in that debate in any way, shape, or form that because it was on the things that got wrong on the Duke debate? Was I shown anything that I got wrong? Press 1 for no, 2 for yes, and then whatever else for it. So if you think that I
So one is that Steve
did
wasn't
learn nothing, got
wasn't
nothing, yeah,
shown
nothing.
how he was wrong in any way in regards to the Duke debate, and two is that yes, he did.
And everyone that does 2, I will have you removed from my live chat. Okay. Okay.
Actually,
I swear
number
to God, I
two
think
would
it's
be
hilarious.
at Real Jacob 98. You're out.
Hey, look, I've known Jacob a long time. He's
I'm just kidding.
he's a driver, Uber driver. He's been in the GDC for
Oh, one.
many years. Yeah, he's funny. Of course, Jacob. Yeah, no, he's
Message
one.
retracted.
This was retracted. I love you, Jacob. By the way, I wish I was Jacob, man. That boy has got it going on. I mean, seriously, he is in good shape.
Yeah, that's why I clarified it for Steve afterward. I thought people might have gotten confused with the way he had said it.
All right, so let's go to the next one. Go ahead. I love this.
Oh, this
This
one's
is my
about
favorite. This is about
the
you.
ever fascinating definition of atheism again. At least Steve didn't bring the thought with him. That's me.
She's the thought. now, 2 things on this. One, this was not supposed to be about the definition of atheism. I figured it was going to be, kind of delve in that, but oh my God, it's
Tertiary,
like
yeah.
tertiary. But and then, by the way, do you know how many feminists have replied so far about why are you calling her a thought? What's up with that? I mean,
I don't know. It says view reply. Is there any replies?
no, there's no replies.
Oh wait, no, that's the next one down. Nobody, just 5 thumbs up.
Yeah. So 5 people think you're a thought.
Listen,
Jess.
you people in the chat, you guys need to pay me more.
Yeah,
I should be making bank.
I mean, screw the fact that you're a female, right? It's just these incels calling you a thought kind of thing they'll go after. But on a debate like this, because you're my co-host, I guess it no longer applies, right?
Yeah, the fuck did I do? Hold on. On the other
You're not
hand,
a real woman. That's why.
I don't actually get insulted by the term thought because that implies that I would be able to actually make money off of just showing off my personage, and that's not something I do. So it seems to imply that I have a lot more assets and skills than I actually act upon. So I take it as a compliment.
But again, okay, so there's 3 comments so far, right?
Hobgoblins and thought goblins.
Not one of these comments has addressed anything about the debate topic.
We're only 3 so far down. Let's go. Oh, we saw 2 of this guy already, but why is Steve totally dominating and directing the conversation, asking the questions 50-1 on words uttered? Well, yeah, did you not know what this was supposed to be about? That's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be Steve asking this guy questions. I'm wondering if there was, like, people were confused about, like, going in. Like, if the expectation was something that it wasn't. Like, I just don't know how... Did modern day debates, like, put this in as if it was supposed to be... You know what I mean? Like, maybe people... I'm giving the benefit of the doubt here that maybe people were actually just confused about what this was supposed to be about.
Oh, you know that? Maybe this is the wrong Jacob. You're not Jacob Driver. Okay, you know what? I'm confused. There's a Jacob Driver from that I know from the Great Debate community on Twitter. That's not the real Jacob 98, but I was just talking to him on Twitter not long ago, so I got you guys confused. Sorry about that, the real Jacob 98. You're not the same one that... You're
That's
not
okay.
Jacob,
We
Jacob
like you
Driver
anyway.
From Twitter. Too many...
Oh, that? Yeah, I've seen that.
You know who I'm talking about. Okay, so I got you... Hey, by the way, I got it. I made a mistake. I corrected it, and it was in the after
and
show.
apologized.
And apologized. I got my sincere apologies. Oh my God. Now I have to go kill myself. Harry Carey. My honor is tarnished.
Quick, kick him out of the chat before Steve has to admit any
Bye,
wrongdoing.
real Jacob. Cool. Mod squad, go.
Hi. I'm the only mod here.
You're the only. You're right. You're the only mod guy right now. Read the next one. This is great.
And he was one of the moderators of the Non Sequitur show. That makes it even worse.
I wasn't there to be a moderator. I was one of the debaters. What am I supposed to do? When you're debating, you go to debate. Do I sit there and go, I'm just going to sit here? Do you got something interesting to say, my interlocutor? No. If he wanted to be more assertive, he could have been.
I'm almost confused. Like, I feel like these people have never watched modern day debates before. Like, is that just me? Did they get lost?
No, but so far, not one has shown what I got wrong. All right, keep going.
And we'll give Steve another last word. That dude was mad. I could be wrong here, but I don't see how Steve can say that he can't see a dichotomy between theist and atheist, but can between theist and not theist. Doesn't the A in a... Oh, fuck. Doesn't the A in atheist stand for without, and when used in context of the discussion could be synonymous with the not of in not theist.
Did I not explain during the debate from first principles that you can get to theist or not theist? Once you change not theist to anything else, you no longer you have a conceptual dichotomy. You don't have a logical, by necessity, metaphysical necessity dichotomy, right? So theist and atheist depends on what usage of atheism, right? To be dichotomous. If you wanted to make it weak, then it's dichotomous. If you want to make it strong, it is not. They're called contradictories, which is, again, normative in the field of philosophy. This is like, do you want to learn how it's understood in philosophy, or do you want to understand how it is in the ACA, AR, and American Atheist? If that's the case, then fine. But I'm not here to promote Atheist Community of Austin's usages, right? I mean, that's their uses. I'm trying to explain how if you want to go read something on it, how you're going to have to learn what these words generally are used as.
Well, that person just sounds to me like they just did not listen or did not understand what you were saying, because you straight up explained that already.
I thought I did.
So, next comment, James Moderation, non-existent.
No, hang on one second.
Yes.
The A and the Atheist, once again, is negation. God exists. Negation is God does not exist.
You're explaining it again.
I mean, I don't. It's first back to square one again. All right, go ahead. What now? Shock bar?
James Moderation, non-existence, same as it ever was, and you may find yourself read more. And you may find yourself in a debate where you can't get in a word in edgeways. Well, yeah, and again, you did throw it back to him. It's not like you didn't let him speak.
Times.
You gave him the opportunity a couple of times, and he just didn't have anything to say. It was weird. I was just like, I think he's just in over. I was legitimately giving this guy the benefit of the doubt in that, one, maybe he hadn't done these kinds of debates and talks before, so he was a little bit nervous.
He debated Darwin's deity. He debated, I think, Nephilim 3. So he's done this before. Yes.
So then I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt in that he was just in over his head and he realized that, so he didn't really have anything to argue. So when you asked him questions, he didn't really understand the question or didn't really have anything to say, because whatever you had said before that already debunked whatever he was going to say.
Right. Well, I would think that, look, if somebody's going to school me and they don't know what a theory of knowledge is, I'm kind of going to be going, well, what are you going to school me on, right? I mean, I'm not saying that I'm like Mr. Elite. I'm far from it, right? But I have a basic understanding enough that if somebody says, hey, I know more than you, and let me show you where you got wrong, I'm going to take them at their value, what they say at face value, and say, okay, what did I get wrong? And I say, well, wait a minute. You know, what about here's a theory of knowledge? And they're like, well, I don't know what any of that means. I'm going to have some reservations, right?
Yeah, and especially when that wasn't what the discussion was supposed to be. Oh, we're really going to read Taken S2? This person is a known troll.
Yeah, it's so funny. Look at the other, yeah, we don't have to, the trolls we know the names of the trolls. These are all Vaping Vader's trolls. Go figure, right?
Right.
But so, yeah, again, none of them actually addresses my arguments, right?
Well, this one's just making fun of the thumbnail, so I'm fine with skipping that.
You gotta read this one.
Oh, it's for me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, hey, stream with Steve McRae without hostile / drunk Chesh. So rare to find. Sarah
so you're
J.
a thought and you're drunk.
And I'm super hostile.
Yeah, you're a mean poopy head.
I'm a mean poopy head. So now you are a Steve McRae hater. You flip-flop more than a pancake.
By the way, this guy used to be a mod for me.
Oh my god!
This guy used to be a mod for me. Yeah.
Well, we've seen Sarah J around before. Well, we've seen Sarah J around.
Yeah, she was a Kyle
too,
lover. Yeah.
Who's But here she is, just being like, he got dunked on. God damn.
Oh my god!
I just don't
read that one. No, I don't hate Steve McRae like trolls like you. I'm like, from an actual troll that says this. It's like, oh my god.
Wait,
okay.
What? Nope. Okay, so now you're a Steve McRae hater. You flip-flop more than a pancake. Nope, I don't hate Steve McRae like trolls like you. I disagree with him and his actions. I know you cannot understand that since you are desperate and still actually hate him for months, if not years. I don't need to see everything in black and white like you do, obviously. I don't lack the intelligence for that. By the way, I still have your comment where you threatened to report me for harassing or shit, so fuck off, or maybe I'll report you for harassment. Sounds legit.
Wow. This is trolls eating trolls. I love it.
This is like so incoherent. We have a super chat from WizBiz for 5 that says, what was with Snake's denial of American Atheist, ACA, and Aaron's clear claims that there is only one definition?
I don't think he was aware of it.
Maybe.
I don't think he's ever seen that before. And this is from his own webpage, Aaron's webpage, where it was like there's only one correct definition. I mean, so yeah, then again, like I said, they don't do much research. And by the way, did you not notice that every source that he had cited, I've already read. I have it at my fingertips, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean,
got into your brain hole.
Yeah, I mean,
Mega
so
brain,
if you're
brain.
gonna quote me on stuff, come on. But yeah, so I don't think he recognized that, because I think he's been lied to so many times. I'm not gonna hold Snake accountable for this, but I think he's been lied to, that people are saying, well, Steve argues that you must use these definitions and any other definition is wrong. Never have I said any such a thing. The people that are saying that are lying about my positions merely because they don't want to address the actual arguments. All right, moving on.
Yeah, I'm just checking something real quick, because I think we got somebody in the chat who's basically everybody is done with. So I just want to make sure that it's actually that person before I go ahead and time them out and tell them to bugger off.
Give me a hint.
They debated Red's rhetoric.
Okay. Well, I don't see them in there.
He recently posted about. He recently was posting about how shit was a. I don't think it is. I think I've got the wrong person.
Okay,
that's why I wanted to double check. Yeah, I think I got the wrong person.
I'm not seeing anybody like that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to double check to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, Standing for Truth, when are you going to come in? Like I said, I've invited you like 10 times. I know you want to come in, but you're always busy. So Standing for Truth, when you get a chance.
Look, it's almost like I double check before I go ahead and be kicking people around and shit. Make sure I'm not going after the wrong people or something.
Wait, Standing for Truth, you debated on the human chromosome 2 fusion? I would love to talk about that. How about I could bring you in with Ruhif? Let's do that. All right, so go on.
At some time, like I think that says 3 minutes and 47 seconds, Steve says YouTube has an issue with unsubbing people. No, Steve, people are unsubbing because you have terrible content. It's a Steve issue, not a YouTube issue.
Okay, why is it that people telling me that they no longer sub to half the channels? It's not just me. I mean, it's like a common thing. People have told me they're not getting notifications. They had to sub, unsub, go back, and now they're getting notifications. They're being randomly unsubbed. You think I'm making this crap up? Okay, I don't give a shit, but you can ask the people in my live chat. It's happened to them.
It's happened to me. Be careful about telling the truth. The McRae cult may attack you. Does this person realize the irony of what they're saying, given that them and this Taken person are going at each other? So it's McRae fighting McRae.
This person here is that other group that I shall not even give the acronym for.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay,
that's them. That's one of that.
And then no, Steve, comma, it's Steve S issue. ... They're trying to fix the grammar.
Yeah. But again, nothing here about the argument, right? Nothing here about my positions.
Strong tomato is a weak pineapple. What? I know one thing. This pineapple kush is strong.
Was that before or after the debate?
I don't know. What does interest me is why no one is using anti-theism as no gods exist stance and atheism as a neutral stance, as in I have no belief that there is a god. See, this is actually like part of, we could actually have that discussion about what terminology might be clearer, what might have more utility. I mean, that's actually not a bad comment as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, I get. Okay, but the thing is like an anti-hero is somebody who's not a hero. I mean, not a villain, right? An anti-hero is still a hero. So anti-theism already has an understanding of a person who's against the concept of God or religion, right? It can be used either way.
Sure.
I have no problem with either one. This is how it's understood throughout all of the literature. This is how secular humanists understand it. This is everybody that I've talked to besides Richard Richardson, who's the head of the Canadian Atheist Organization. Do not use anti-theism to mean a strong atheist position, because now you're changing things so much that you're the only ones using these terms this way, and that's called a private language argument. That if you use words your own way that nobody knows what the hell you're saying, what's the point?
If your way is actually that much more clear to people, then I would say that it is worth attempting to change people's minds to start using that kind of language. So, for example,
one sec. Wouldn't it be then? A theist would say that an atheist would be. An atheist would say that a theist would be anti-atheist then. Right? That'd be anti-atheism.
Yes. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. See,
but it wouldn't be every theist. It would only be theists who are actively like the theists who are saying that atheists are literally Satan, like stuff like that.
No, I don't think so. If you're going to change,
because they would have to be against atheism, and not every theist is against atheism.
I get you. No, I agree with you. But
Right?
anti-theism is, as they want to make it no God exists, and anti-atheism would be no God does not exist. And so that's what I'm saying. That's
Listen,
why
I'm not saying that
right?
I'm not saying that this version is a good thing to use. I'm just saying that there's an argument to be made that if your usages are actually that much better, and the example I was going to use is like gender pronouns. Gender pronouns in English aren't really that useful anymore in most cases, so removing them from the language entirely may be beneficial, and there's an argument that could be made for that for the sake of utility.
Yeah, I just think.
But that's
yeah. Okay.
That's just an example, not an actual argument I'm making.
All right, so go on.
Okay. Yeah, it was so this is Snake saying, yeah, it's all a gradient, not so much discrete categories, especially in most conversations that real people have, though philosophers also use the broad sense.
I don't know what that's supposed to mean. It's like,
I don't think I know what that means either.
If you talk about science and you're just dismissing and say, well, hey, look, the average person means these words like this. I'm not going to use the way the scientists use it. Okay, fine. But if you're going to talk to me about evolution, I'm probably going to use the terms in the way that I understand them from the scientific context, right? Context. So, I mean, like, to me, evolution is a change of allelic frequency, right? More specifically, a change of allelic frequency or hereditary traits in a given population from one generation to the next generation over time. Now, Standing for Truth might disagree with that. He might say, look, evolution just means change because that's how creationists think about it. I don't use it that way. Why should I be forced to use it in a out of domain way? I'm not forcing them to use the scientific thing. I don't say, hey, Standing for Truth, you've got to use evolution this way. But when I'm using it, this is what I mean by evolution. So we have an understanding. When he says evolution, he just means change. I still understand what he says. I'm not going to force him to use evolution as far as like what it means normatively in science, but everybody else who has the conversation, right, in the field is going to go, yes, Steve understands a little bit about evolution, right? So.
I don't think it's a gradient in normal sense. Emotionally, sure.
Yeah.
Keyboard shortcuts. I think technically speaking, every human is agnostic. We don't have a way to know if there is a God. Then we have people who believe there is a God and people who think it's bullcrap. And what remains is people who don't have belief either way, a position zero or neutral. But historically, agnosticism was made up in the late 19th century because atheist was not socially acceptable. So, read more. Oh, God. So some dude came up with a new
Thomas
word,
Henry Huxley?
a new word that doesn't ruffle the feathers.
Forget the rest. Okay, so did I not, Tesh, in the debate, show an SEP what an agnostic was, somebody who doesn't believe either way? Why are they coming back to the knowledge thing? Why do they keep going back to knowledge? If it says agnostic is a belief position about this, right? It's a belief that you do not have a belief either way. It's a second order belief.
Here, let me piss everybody off. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. You're welcome. It's the same thing.
There you go. I mean, it's just bizarre because they keep on going back. By the way, Thomas Henry Huxley did not use it as knowledge either. He used it as a normative epistemic principle, which was completely different. So, this is fractally wrong. If you're having a discussion about God existing and somebody says agnostic has to do with knowledge, be done with that conversation. You might as well be talking to a second grader. It's serious. It's a waste of your time because you cannot take a word and as it's understood in the domain of a God existing, and then all of a sudden use it for knowledge. If you want to talk about epistemology and the epistemological knowability of God, it's great. Stay with that. But if you're talking about God existing, you're changing the domain. You're going from ontology to epistemology, existence to knowability. That is what I see happen all the time. This is what I'm saying. They don't understand that. Stop doing that. Agnostic is not about knowledge. Agnosticism isn't a knowledge claim regardless. And it's Frank Turek, who I really no big fan of Frank Turek, but Wayne Fillmore sent me a video about Frank Turek the other day with this debater, a guy that was talking to him in school, and Frank was right. He was trying to explain to him, look, even if what you say is kind of correct, agnosticism is still never a knowledge position. It is the belief that gods are not knowable. The belief that gods are not knowable. The belief.
At least
Can
this
I say
person
that again?
is
the belief.
At least this person is trying to talk about the debate, unlike so far of what we've read.
I'm going to give this a partial.
They're trying.
Yeah, well,
They're at least
certain things
trying.
just giving it the old college try ain't good enough for. Okay.
A for effort. I often see anti-theism used to mean a stance against any type of religion and its adherents, often with an aggressive or militant underpinning.
I'm not going to deny that one. I think that's kind of right.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I don't see an issue with that.
Right.
Atheism typically has a broader connotation, also meaning non-religious, and anti-theism, having the connotation of being anti-religious. Religions such as Buddhism and Jainism do not hold a belief in a god, but would you call a Buddhist an atheist? Would you call a Jainist an atheist?
No. Because they define themselves. In Buddhism, you can believe in a god.
There's also gods involved, depending on which sect you're talking about. Yeah. So maybe I'm nitpicking their argument, but that might be nitpicky of me.
Yeah, but I don't think I mean, yes, in IEP it even says that atheism can be used in regards to religion. I get that, right? That's one of the other uses it could possibly have. I don't think that's a really good way to use it, though. And this is utility. It's strictly utility argument. Is that the fact that you can be religious and not have a God belief, because there are atheistic religions out there. Atheism already has a usage. Why make it now? Yes, words of polysemous, but is there a utility to make it about religion? Because that opens up a whole different can of words. Because now you don't make it propositionally. Now you don't have a truth or false value. If atheism is that religion is false, what does that mean? That religion is false. If religion is false, what would that entail? I have no idea what that even means.
I think it makes more sense to say, like, if we're talking about utility arguments, I would probably say I think it makes more sense to have atheism meaning your epistemology or your belief system when it comes to gods or lack thereof, or that you don't believe gods exist, and then anti-theism standing more for somebody who is against more the institution of theist or theism, like the institutional part of it. Then that's not even necessarily meaning saying that theism shouldn't even exist. It's more of like the institutions are problematic, and you have a problem with that.
I'm skipping the next two; they're irrelevant.
Okay. Why does Steve? Am I at that one?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, it's that red guy, that dumbass that said you were transphobic.
Yeah,
I remember that guy.
Yeah, he's actually calling trans people transphobic too, so that's kind of funny.
The guy who you pulled into a call to say, so am I transphobic or not? And he was like, well, I know. So am I or not? Yes, he was like, yeah, no. And then later on went off on Twitter talking about how you were so transphobic.
Right? I that was great. She's not even kidding. For like a half hour, I was like, am I transphobic or not? He wouldn't freaking give an answer, and I'm like, okay, we're done. He goes on Twitter, Steve's still transphobic, and they're like, shut the hell up, you idiot.
That was really funny. Okay, why does Steve think that Gnostic atheism doesn't make sense? If you use the weak sense of atheism,
hang on. All right, stop there. So you tell me why. I explained it, and
no,
I explained it.
I don't want to play. It makes perfect sense when you realize that strong atheism is a subset of weak atheism. This specific subset that claims to know that God does not exist are still members of the same sect of people that don't believe in gods. I also think he is using the incorrect dichotomy to define theism and atheism, and it shouldn't be believes God exists or believes God doesn't exist, but rather does believe God exists or does not believe God. They've missed the whole argument. This is why I didn't answer you. This is why I did not answer you. They missed the entire argument. They did not watch any of this.
I don't think they did, because I explained all this in great detail. I'll ask my live chat. Why is Gnostic atheism in the weak case nonsensical? Can one person tell me why that is the case? I mean, just give me a very succinct answer. By the way, you only need to say one phrase, and that will tell me you understand it. But even Matt Dillahunty says that Gnostic, with a G, atheism is nonsensical in the weak case.
Gnostic.
Why?
And Icarus said, atheist means materialistic, naturalistic, evolutionist globehead.
Yeah. So he also uses the incorrect dichotomy. I have not had an incorrect dichotomy. I've explained logical dichotomies. I've explained conceptual dichotomies. I've explained what's called what's the other type called artificial dichotomies, which are basically more of a gradient, right? If I say tall versus short, that is dichotomous, but there's a gradient to be had there, and so we have a line of demarcation of what we say would be short and tall, right? Or if I say old and young, those are dichotomous, but those are artificial dichotomies in that there's a gradient to be had between them. There's no set line that says you must fall into this or this. We arbitrarily say you're tall or you're short, you're old or you're young, right? But it's not like you're a theist or not theist. That is not some kind of gradient there. Either you believe, you hold a belief that God exists, or you do not hold the belief. There's no middle ground there. There's no gradient to be had of where
It's
the line of
not
demarcation
really,
is.
yeah, it's not really relative. Like tall or old is relative, but belief or not belief isn't. Outdone, I think, is the first one to get it correct, because you would have to lack a belief, but you would have to have a belief to have knowledge.
Yeah, knowledge is a subset of belief, right? So if you lack a belief, you don't meet the prerequisite for knowledge. If you have knowledge, you have belief. It's entailed by that. This is what I explained in the debate. Yay!
You did it! Yay!
See, you guys are not as dumb as people say you are. Because you know.
Todd says Chesh is demonstrably short, no gradient.
That's an objective fact. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
So the whole dichotomy
corrected.
thing, they're not understanding the whole thing at all. But that's okay.
Yeah.
At least he tried.
Okay, so let's see if Red got it.
At least he tried. That guy tried.
Let's see if this red guy got it correct in answering. The simple answer is knowledge is a subset of belief. Defining atheism as a lack of belief while saying you can have knowledge, no God exists, is an absurd statement.
I agree.
Hey, he got it right. Theism and atheism are defined such in philosophy because of how we handle propositions. The proposition, at least one God exists, is either true or false. True is theism and false is atheism. When we get to beliefs about the proposition, the belief of the proposition is true is still theism. The belief the proposition is false is still atheism. And you're an agnostic if you don't believe either way. There are some other belief positions on the proposition that don't fit into three belief positions, but this obfuscates for the big three beliefs on the position.
Yeah, I spot on. What's wrong with that?
Yay! Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. I mean, that's
okay.
So people can't understand this. It is understandable. It's intelligible. So all right. So moving on. And by the way, I can't show the rest because I can't scroll down that much. It's saying the same thing.
Defining atheism as a lack of belief while saying you can still have knowledge, no gods exist, and absurd statement. I'm sorry, you are saying that the set you need to. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you're saying that the set of people that claim there are no gods are not a subset of the set of people that don't believe there are gods?
No, that's not what they're saying. Okay, look. I'll say this again. A person who believes that God does not exist also does not believe that God exists. Now, let me say this again. If you believe that God exists or does not exist, if you believe that God does not exist, you also do not believe that God exists. One entails the other, right? Because if I say, look, gods don't exist, I'm clearly not accepting the proposition that God exists. I lack that position. I lack the belief in that position. So strong atheism entails weak atheism, but weak atheism doesn't entail strong atheism. The problem we have is an unfortunate byproduct of language. Because logically, strong atheism would have to be a subset of weak atheism in this case, right? But weak atheism would be synonymous with non-theism. So atheism is a subset of non-theism, which makes sense.
Oh, Icarus, you fool. You think I haven't already done that?
What'd you do?
You're adorable.
You.
Can you draw the Red's rhetoric goblin with a paper bag on his head? I did that a couple weeks ago. Or last week, actually.
So anyways...
it may be part of a project that I'm working on. Shh.
Again, let me ask you guys again. 100 some odd people watching. That's a third of what would actually watch the debate. How many people have shown that I was wrong so far?
0. We have had 2 people attempting to talk about the what was being talked about, but they've completely missed the point.
Steve's a big poopy head.
Oh, and also a bunch of that. All right, scrolling down.
That's it. That's what we got.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there was,
I'm
not
at bottom here.
sweet. Nice.
So that is thank you, Largy here.
Hello. I am bigger now,
Yeah,
maybe, probably. I don't know.
we'll put you in the middle.
I'm in the middle.
All right, so yeah, I don't know.
I am a man
I
in
don't know.
the
I don't know
box.
why it's not finding the NDI, but so, anyways, what do we got for questions here?
Yeah, drop us questions.
Uriah gets, Uriah, by the way, knows logic. He says, I believe the cosmos is godless. Therefore, I also lack a belief that gods exist in the cosmos. Exactly. I mean, it's not that complicated. So whenever people have these discussions and they start off with, well, you either believe or you don't believe, okay, and what's your point? I think if they say that to you, they're probably not understanding the argument very well, because nobody argues against that, right?
Steve is painfully right about this, but I wish he would convert to based hard.
Well, I got to tell you guys, people, if we didn't have so many atheists out there running shitty arguments and not understanding some basic philosophy, maybe it would be more convincing to me and other people, right? I mean, but you have people out there that don't even understand the most simplistic concepts telling me I'm wrong, and then they look like an idiot when they try to argue for it. And I'm not saying Nate was looking like an idiot. That was not my trying to say that at all. I think he was ill-prepared on the subject matter that he didn't know about. But you know what? I'd give him props when we were done. I was like, dude, at least you brought something. At least you tried to bring something. I
least
can't
you showed
for
up.
that.
Yeah, you showed up.
You showed up.
Yeah, it's just like there's a couple of people in the comments here. Either they are just calling Steve a meanie poopy head and me a thought, which I don't know how I'm related at all, but okay. They're mad.
Now,
or they just completely didn't understand or hear what you were saying in the debate itself.
I want to ask somebody. So Randolph Richardson, who's the president of California, I think I got. We've been trying to have a discussion for quite some time, a long time, and he hasn't been feeling well, so I hope he gets better. But I'm hoping that he watched that debate, and I'm hoping that he tries to actually understand my topics, because he's one of the ones that actually thinks that atheism, gods don't exist, right? The affirmation of God doesn't exist. Which, okay, again, very few people use it that way. If you see atheism in the literature, it's not going to be used that way. Generally, that an anti-theist is somebody who's against the concept of God or religions. But I'm hoping that he watches that debate and sees what my actual arguments are, and then goes, because yeah. I will be going through his page. It's called oh man, what's your? It's atheist defining atheism or something. I don't know what his page is called, and it has a lot of problems with it. It has a lot of logical problems. It has a lot of epistemic problems. It's not as bad as the American atheist page, maybe. But it has some issues, and we're going to be going over it as soon as he's feeling better, so I'm looking forward to that, Richard. So don't die on me.
You're still screen sharing, so we can't see you. Okay.
Wait, they can't see me? Who can't see me?
Outside can't see you. I can see you.
No, they can see me. Can't they?
Oh, okay.
They can see me. I have my own guy window.
Oh, gotcha. You got your own separate.
But I don't need to screen share to you. But right. I broke my keyboard, so I can't alt tab out.
Oh, you're stuck. You're stuck forever. Yeah. Or did forever ever exist in the first place? Vlad said the only thing I can figure is that they fear adopting a burden of proof if they phrase it as a belief, even though that isn't the case. And then there was actually a response that says from Randolph Richardson that says there's no fear, it's just that there's no claim being made. I think it's a matter of a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, don't you think? They spent so much time saying that, well, if you believe this, you have to prove it to me. And now that if they adopt that it is a belief, then now they have to not necessarily take all of it back, but they have to demonstrate it at this point. And they went so hard not having to that it kind of puts a little bit of a pin in their bubble, which isn't a bad thing. It's just a different thing.
And these are claims, by the way. This is a huge mistake I think atheists make. Any position you have is a claim in some regards, whether it's a claim against ontology or it's a claim that this is your position for a given reason. I claim that I'm unable to come to a conclusion about the proposition, so I suspend judgment on it. That's a claim. Right? That is a position. That agnosticism is a claim. Right? It's a belief position, a second order belief position. It's a claim that I cannot reach a decision on it. These are claims. These are all claims. Nothing wrong with claims. Right? I mean, wait. When people were talking about Zeus in the live chat, or not the live chat, the debate, did I not say, hey, look, I claim Zeus doesn't exist? You're damn right I claim that Zeus doesn't exist. Let me, Why are people so afraid of claims? If you don't believe, that's still a claim because you're suspending judgment on it or you don't care. Whatever your reasoning is, there's a reason why you do not believe. That is your burden of proof. Simple. And if you want to default to evidential agnosticism and say, look, I'm an evidential agnosticist. I think there's no evidence either way to sway my opinion. There's no data. It's called zero data agnostic. When you want to get super technical, zero data agnostic. They do exist.
Is that what that little exclamation mark was?
Yeah, no, but that's fine. If you want to default to that, be my guest, right? But that is your burden of proof. If look, I claim there's no data either way. That all these things are claims, man. As soon as you start avoiding claims, you basically have just shot yourself in the foot because now the theist says, well, why am I having a discussion with you, man? You're not claiming anything. Well, you're wasting my time, man. Give me something to argue with. You can't just sit back and go, I don't believe you.
Well, that's what they do. Josiah Hansen for 2 says, because I thoroughly enjoyed the show earlier. A+. So I have a question for you, Steve. Then is this also a claim? Thoughts by Drake Brown said, I believe that Chesh is 6 feet tall and uses After Effects to be a small goblin. Is that a claim?
I believe so, yes. Yeah, like you're right. Christensen gives in the absence of evidence argument, which is a fine justification. If I say, and the Carl Sagan actually when they came up with this, the elephant in my room. But if I say, look, do you believe that there's an elephant in your room? And you say, look, I believe there. I'll say I believe there are no elephants in my room. And they say, well, how do you justify that? Well, if there's elephants in my room and I expect to see this, I expect to see that my room would be trampled and there'd be shit on the floor. I don't see that. There's an expectation to be evidence, right?
I have a question.
That's about. By the way, that's not the only way to justify things, but you can definitely do that. And by the way, I was really surprised you didn't bring up Russell's teapot. I'm a little disappointed in that, but oh well.
I had a question. So what kind of problems do you run into about a belief or a claim if the trolls are saying I am ugly, but also saying I am a thought?
Well, okay, both of them are claims, but those are subjective evaluations, right?
Oh, but I'm saying if it's the same person.
So you're a short, ugly thought?
Yeah.
That's just mean.
So they're
I wouldn't call you ugly.
Head.
Short thought,
so
maybe, but you're not ugly.
Mean, poopy heads.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I better go make 15 different alternate accounts so I can go and say about how they're wrong about everything all the time and make a bunch of claims about them because they were a mean poopy head to me.
I don't.
Justification.
Well, during the debate, we talked about claims because Duke doesn't understand. When I say beliefs are claims, I realize that it's not technically the case. But it's easier to understand that way when you say that you believe something, you're making the claim that the propositional content is the case. So it's indirectly, right? Beliefs and claims are not the same thing, right? And this is where it gets to be a concept thing. Beliefs and claims are not exactly the same thing. But when I say beliefs are claims, what I mean by that is an implicit thing to be had. That when you say you believe something, you're implying that it is the case that the proposition is true or false. That is a claim. And so I couldn't even get Snake to kind of recognize that theism is a claim. It's the claim that God exists. I thought that was kind of odd that he would even acknowledge.
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like that. If you switch it to it is my belief is a claim and calling it that from spending so long and so much time saying, no, I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. You're the one making the claim. You're the one making the claim. You're the one making the claim to then have to kind of eat shit. You kind of have to kind of put your foot in your mouth and be like, okay, well, you know what? You're right. I do have to have I am making a claim. And so for especially when it's like a group or an organization that's done something like that for so long, it is like a pretty big step to the side where they kind of had to eat crow for it for a bit.
It's non-productive too. I think it's counterproductive. And I mean, when I get Randolph on, and I'm not trying to sharpshoot him or anything like that, or trying to get him. I'll give him the question. The question I'll be asking him is, how do you think this is utility? But why do you think it's better for people to just go to a theist, I don't believe you, rather than an atheist who really does believe there are no gods, sit there and go, look, you're wrong. Let me explain to you why there are no gods. Which one is more effective to convince people? And I would think that if you want atheism to be normative and you want atheism to be something to convince the theist, you would adopt the strong case position and definitions. Like you don't have to. This is a utility argument, remember? But I think utility-wise, it makes much more sense to adopt the strong case rather than the weak case merely because you want to put a bunch of people under the umbrella, right? I understand the counter argument is for demographics, but is it really? Is it really? I mean, the non-believers are all under the same umbrella anyway, so labeling them atheist doesn't do anything. It doesn't help anything with demographics. Still not.
Justinian said it's because the new atheism groups Snake follows seem to care more about the atheism argument side rather than seeing the logical negation or theism side of the argument. Don't you think, though, that if they cared so much about the atheism side of the argument, they would want to have a good fucking argument and not get caught up and actually have the discussion rather than getting stuck at square one every single fucking time?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what, like, you would think, right? Like, I'm not disagreeing with Justinian. I'm just saying that, like, by that logic, which I don't necessarily disagree with, you would think that they would
I have a great
logically.
I have a great question for Mike out there. So Mike Ortez, you say, I kind of like Tito's phrasing. I make the positive claim that there are no good arguments for theism. Okay. And by the way, he tries to define atheism that way. So there's a difference there, but whatever. Let's go with that. Mike, I mean, this is directly to you, Mike Ortiz. Do you think there's good arguments for atheism, as in atheism in the positive class? Do you think there's good reasons to believe there's no gods? Right? If I was an atheist and I'm saying, look, I'm trying to convince you that gods or don't exist. They're all bullshit.
I'm going to play Mike. I'll play Mike for you for a second. Yeah, I think there's good arguments for atheism.
I know Mike. You're no Mike. Senator, I know Mike Ortiz. You're no Mike Ortiz.
I'm doing my best, sir. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I don't know. Mike.
Yes, I think there are good arguments for... I do think there are good arguments for atheism.
Yeah, and I'm not going to disagree with you. So why not use them and say, look, to the theist, these are my arguments for atheism. Divine hiddenness, logical problem evil, evidential problem evil, divine liars paradox, evidential arguments for morality.
So what if Mike says no? No, there aren't any good arguments for atheism.
So if there's no good arguments for atheism and no arguments for theism, then you're dead set in the middle and you have no ability to decide either way on the proposition of God existing. You have nothing to evaluate. You would be what we call a zero data agnostic in that case, right? Which I think is almost a nonsensical position, to be honest with you. It's not. I mean, it's not nonsensical. It makes sense, but to me, it's unimaginable that you could sit there and say, "Hey, look, I got no evidence either way." Nonsense. There are good arguments either way. Better maybe for atheism, even somebody argue, right? That's the whole point. Which has better arguments, right? I mean, but to say there's no arguments either way for theism and atheism, does that make any sense to you? That you would want to debate that way and tell somebody, hey, look, there's no arguments either way for theist or atheism, therefore I'm going to be neither.
I dislike having to compare these groups of atheists to flat earthers, but I do. And the reason I do isn't because that their belief system is unreasonable or unfounded. It's the way they come into debates and the way they come into discussion. They only come in to poke holes in the other person's discussion. They don't actually bring an argument of their own. This is why, and I'm going to call myself out for being a hypocrite, because if it was me, I would be doing the same thing, because I don't debate. That's why I don't debate. I'll do discussions and I'll have conversations, but that's because I'm trying to have a conversation and I'm trying to learn, or I don't understand what somebody is saying. So if I come into, like, if I was in Snake's position, I wouldn't have wanted to come into a debate with Steve. I would have done exactly what I did, and I would have talked to Steve saying, I don't understand what you're saying, or I think this is a hole in what you're saying. Can you explain this to me? And he would explain it to me, and then I would either understand it, and or I wouldn't understand it, and then I would either make the decision to say, I just don't get this, and give up, or say, I understand this, but I still think there's a hole here, and then the discussion can actually move forward, and a conversation can fucking happen.
I think that's perfectly fine. Why would that be a problem if somebody did it that way?
Right. So that's what I'm saying. But on the other side of things, if you're not going to have the discussion and all you're going to do is try and poke holes in the other person, then you're not. This is what Kent Hovind does. Kent Hovind runs a script and doesn't actually try to debate or demonstrate that his side is true. All he does is try to say, well, evolution is wrong because of these things that have been debunked 17 times over.
Yeah, or it's worse when somebody says, look, the universe is materialistic. And then they say, but I don't have a belief that gods don't exist. I'm like, that one entails the other. I'm like, at least be consistent with your argumentation. Don't say you're a naturalist, an ontological naturalist, and say you don't know whether you believe in gods or not. That, first of all, that doesn't make any sense. But if you are an ontological or a metaphysical naturalist, to be rational, that would entail you cannot believe there are any gods, because it eliminates anything from the supernatural set. And the way I use a supernatural set is very simple. And again, you don't have to adopt this. This is just my schema. Is this makes if you're going to talk about this topic, I think there's a way to make it makes sense because people are like, well, what do you mean by supernatural? I get that, right? I asked the person, what do you mean by it? But the simplest way to describe a new supernatural is that all the things that exist are in the natural set. Okay, there's automatically a complementary set when you have a set. There's the A and A prime, N prime, right? So for every set, there's a complementary set. So the complementary in this case would be anything that's not in the set of natural. You can argue what would that mean? Fair enough, but that set still exists. And then you would argue, I don't know what that would mean, but the set of things that are supernatural is a null set. It contains 0 elements. That would be a metaphysical naturalist, which means that God would not be in that supernatural set, meaning that you would hold there are no gods. So that's the consistency of having that position. And somebody had asked me, actually more than one person asked me the other day, well, Steve, how many atheists you know that believe there are no gods? A hell of a lot. Most of my audience are atheists. They are tell you right now, gods don't exist. I don't hold that position, but they sure do. Ask them.
We got a couple of interesting points
position?
in the chat. Yeah. There's a couple people in the chat that have some interesting comments. Mike is saying, okay, so in the sense that people like to that people talk like normal humans, I say atheist due to an absence of evidence of the possibility. But that's not, that doesn't tell me anything.
That's a bad way to put it, though, because he's he's saying the possibility. When you start saying that it's not possible, now you have a huge claim. Now you have a claim that it is impossible, and you need to demonstrate by proof by possibility or proof by contradiction that gods are not possible. Do you know people have ever done that? 0.
You're running into a part of the discussion that I don't think you're trying to get into when you start phrasing things like that. Anzi said, my 2 cents, the idea of precision in language is beautiful but dead on arrival. Even the academic field specific lingo is hazy at times. Semantics should be avoided when it's usually about ideas. In some cases, yes, and I think in some cases, no. I think it's fine to debate and argue semantics, but it needs to be there's a good kind and a bad kind. Having to start from square one every time just to get the point across that the way you're using it has problems isn't good. Accepting that your semantics has an issue and then addressing that issue and figuring out how to move forward or make it better from there is good. That's a good semantic discussion to have. And then there's an argument about utility. You can argue semantics about whether or not it's better to use this way of using the word or this way of using the word, and then also describing about who are you trying to talk to. You'll see these kinds of discussions a lot in media, where it's like you notice certain words will never show up on TV shows. Not because, I'm not even talking about swear words. I'm just talking about there are certain words that if you watch TV will never, ever show up, or will show up very, very, very rarely. Fart is one of them.
Randolph says,
particularly on daytime television.
Randolph says there are no good arguments for atheism. Then why is anybody an atheist activist? If there's no good reasons to be atheist, why active? Why it makes no sense to say that, right? How could if somebody's an atheist activist and they say that, hey, you know what? There's no good reason to be an atheist. Really? Then what is your activism about? If you have no good arguments for atheism. By the way, I think the logical problem of evil is a good argument. I think the evidential problem of evil is a good argument. What are the arguments for? Yep. The non-existence of God, atheism. Is somebody going to actually argue that God's not existing does not fall under atheism, no matter what usages they want to use? Because I think that's kind of odd to say, hey, can I ask this question the other day? What do you call somebody who believes there are no gods? And the response was, that's a complex question fallacy. No, it's not. They're called an atheist in any way you look. I mean,
you know what
the ACA would call them an atheist. I mean, no, who doesn't call somebody? If I say, hey, Chesh, gods are bullshit, they don't exist. I'm telling you right now they don't exist. I even say I know they don't exist, hypothetically, right? And you say, well, what is your position? And I say, well, I'm not an atheist. Then what the hell are you? It's like, really?
I think it would be interesting to have Leo on, because Leo says that they have, I have 4 arguments that make a case for naturalism. And it kind of gave me an idea. Like 1, to have them on, but 2, to actually, instead of debating or discussing with people the grander positions, or like in like in a larger sense, it might be more fun to bring people on to have them present to us, and then we spitball questions and poke holes at them to help them better their arguments, to see if we can find any holes or better analogies or anything like that,
I'm
rather
curious
than.
what one would it be if he wants to. Is there like a real quick one, Leo, that you think why you would run naturalism? Because I'm definitely not against having.
Well,
an
they would have
argument.
to, yeah, they would have to essentially, what I would recommend doing is, before they even would come on, is I would say type up your what your points you want to make and what you want to discuss and what you want help on or what you want to improve or to see if we can poke holes in. You might have an argument that we don't have any holes for, right? So type out what your position is and how you wanted to attack it, and then email that to Steve or me. We'll read it through and then bring you on, and then we can discuss it.
Yeah, and
I think that sounds like a great idea.
And Maki, the arguments concerning theocracies are pretty good arguments. Yeah, I think so as well. But a theocracy is the arguments against those, right? So logical problem of evil is not a theodicy. A theodicy is the arguments against the logical problem of evil, right? Like John Wick's soul builder, right? John Hicks soul building thing is basically saying that, look, why the evil exists is because we're trying to build our souls. I don't know what that means. A learning experience, right? We're here to learn. That's the soul building, to build up our souls. That's the theodicy, is why is there a certain amount of evil in the world? Because my argument has always been very simple when it comes to the evidential problem of evil, which is pretty standard, right? Not my own argument. It's been around forever. Why is this actualized world the world that contains the exact amount of evil that it does? And some people say that, well, it's optimized for this amount of evil. Well, why? What is it about stubbing my toe one last time that would mean any less to soul building, right? If that's your theodicy, then had I not stubbed my toe. If I go at my whole life and I stub my toe 50 times, what's the difference between that and one less gratuitous or natural evil, which is stubbing your toe and is considered a natural or gratuitous evil? If I have a 49 times or 50, why would it make a bit of difference? Why did God pick that? Why is this actualized world the perfect world for the amount of evil in it? Nobody, I think, is able to understand that very well or explain that very well. Sorry.
Yeah, justify and explain it, like, yeah, particularly with certain gods, for sure. Leo said, for 10, I would enjoy being on. Having people criticize my arguments helps to either refine them or shows them to be inaccurate. Yeah, our goal wouldn't be to like rip you apart. Our goal would be to be like, okay, what arguments do you think are the weakest? What ones do you think are your strongest? Why or why not? And we can kind of go through it. And it's more of like teaching the audience, teaching us, teaching you, and everybody gets to learn off of each other and learn something. And it's not like it would be relevant to only atheists or only theists. It would be anybody who wants to come and present their argument to us to help refine their argument.
Yep, and as Kevin points out,
I think that'd be a great idea.
Leibniz had coined that in defense of God, right? The theocracies is the
kind of like when
gods.
Helios was on.
Yeah. And by the way, Randolph, I did see your messages. I don't think normalization of atheism makes much sense if you're not going to have any position of why you should normalize it, right? If you don't think there's any good arguments for atheism, why should anybody be an atheist?
Right. Yeah, there's no point in normalizing something that there's no reason to be that thing if you can't have any justification. I think the issue that I think it's Mike in the chat saying that they use the term to help them deal with hyper-religious family members. So my view is less about truth because that's a rabbit hole, but trying to prevent people in my family/community from telling people what is true without being able to justify it, even if I can't prove the counter. So yeah, but your best way to do that is to be able to demonstrate the counter, even if it's not the full counter. If you just tell somebody, oh, you're wrong and here's why you're wrong, you're not really giving them much that they can go on to say, well, if it's wrong, then what? Right? You're kind of leaving them with like
you kind of want to get okay. And I agree with Chess on this, and this is by the way a separate issue.
Yes, but this is separate. Sorry, I kind of detracted.
Yeah, no, but I like okay. Normally in science, you tend to want to give an alternative hypothesis, right? You just showing something not to be the case is good, but giving an alternative hypothesis is better. Is the way we should do things, I think, right? And again, this is not standardized in science, but this is some of the philosophy of science is that people say, look, falsification of a theory is fine, but you need to be able to replace it with something, right? You need to be able to give a better explanation by explaining why it was falsified. Right?
You're not really giving them a reason to not just stick with that again outside of their own pause, but there's a little bit of an issue with that because if this is a person who's going to church every single Sunday and going and praying every single Sunday, then their response to the hole that you poked in is to plug it with praying and going back to church to reaffirm whatever it is they already believe. You're not giving them something else to chew on. If you can give them something else to chew on, then it might be more, especially if you can shut down their arguments that hard, they might just leave you the fuck alone.
I'll give you a perfect example for this. And by the way, Randolph, I don't think anybody has a problem normalizing atheism. I don't even. That's a big deal. Everybody wants to normalize atheism.
Oh yeah, no, he's saying that in response to Steve is saying that in response to somebody saying that there are no arguments for atheism. Well, if there's no arguments for atheism, then there's not really any point to normalizing it.
Right.
Not that there isn't any point to normalize it, period, because we think that there are reasonable arguments.
I'll give you an example, Chess. If I say to you, hey, look.
This is the conversation we should be having now that we've got past square one. Jesus Christ. These are actually good conversations. It took us 3 streams.
Right?
We had the one on Monday. We had, last Monday. We had mine after you wrote your blog and I was doing that shit. Then we had this one today. And we're finally getting to the point where we're getting there.
This is going to get to a crux of the argument that I haven't really talked about before. Why? Because we never got off square fucking one. So square 2. Actually, that might even be square 3. I don't know, but square 2. So think about this, Chesh. If I say to you, when a theist posits God, would you say that many of them posit God as an explanation for existence?
Okay.
Not a trick question. I mean, I think that's pretty well yes.
Say it again then. Say that.
Do you think that a lot of theists, when they're positing God, they do try to use God as some kind of an explanation for existence, why we're here, why
usually,
we have morals,
I would
whatever
agree
the
with
reasons.
that, yes.
Okay. So they're using theism,
at least that I encounter,
right. So they're using theism to explain something. Now, the counter argument is from materialism that they would say is, okay, what does atheism explain? Because
that's a good point.
Especially in the weak case, if atheism is going to be the positive case that no gods exist, and let's say even materialism, right? There are no supernatural,
right?
Then atheism is non-explanatory, right? I'm not arguing theism is.
All it would say is that existence is natural and not supernatural.
Okay,
that would be the only claim it would make.
But it's not explanatory. So if I have atheism,
but it doesn't explain. Yeah, it doesn't explain how it happened. It just says that it not by supernatural.
But now take it to the next step. If atheism is merely a lack of belief, has absolutely no explanatory power.
No, none whatsoever.
None. It means it cannot be.
It doesn't even explain to me what you do think.
Yeah, because it's not a position of what you think. It's about what you think, but it's not a belief that you have. So so when people use atheism as a lack of belief, okay, well, it's non-explanatory, and this is what the theists will do, right? The theists will now you're saying, what is your alternative explanation then? Now, I don't find a problem with saying we don't know. I'm not trying to argue that we have to come up with an explanation.
Right.
But I see a lot of people going, oh, theism, that's a bad explanation, Bob, and they're poking holes in it. Okay, sure, but you know what? Present something of your own. Show me why materialism is a better explanation. Show me what a possible explanation would be for. And by the way, you don't have to. I'm not saying that this is something that requires.
This isn't a requirement.
But I tell you what, you're able to do that. You're going to be able to change the mind of the theist more often. You say, hey, look, let me posit to you something else.
Yeah, if this is the case, then this is what we would expect to see. Why aren't we seeing that in your case? Okay, well, here's what I would expect to see in my case, and you go into naturalism or you go into materialism, et cetera, and you've given them something more to think about, something more to mull over, and maybe even something that they can compare notes later down the line. I don't know how many times I've had conversations that end with the person just essentially walking away from me saying, oh, well, I'll have to look into that, and then they never do.
Oh, I get ghosted. Let me tell you. And by the way, I'm looking forward to this discussion too, Randolph. I'm not trying to, surprise him with anything, right? You can know my whole litany. I'm never trying to even my debate. I would have showed him all my questions if I had thought of them initially. I mean, I wrote everything down, like I said. But I lost my train of thought.
It'd be interesting to have Snake come back at some point, maybe now that and see if he has any criticisms after the fact.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. A lot of times I'll show people this stuff, and then I get ghosted.
Oh yeah,
just ghosted. Now, I've also shown a lot of people that they come back later and said, you're right. Like Mark Craighead. Remember that guy that was the admin for that Insiders group?
He was nice.
He was nice, but he came back and said, hey, Steve, I really treated you shittily. I was really, I'm sorry about that. I looked into what you had to say, and guess what? You're all right. I cannot deny it. And now he thinks he's a better at arguing with people, and I praise him for that. Great, right? But
that radio guy was a dick, though.
Yeah, maybe Snake will be the same thing, though. Maybe he'll come back and say, you know what? I did have a misunderstanding of your positions. I understand them now, and I've changed them. Right? That's that goal, right? We all want to sway people's opinions, or else we wouldn't be doing this, right? But when we chalk it up, oh look, Steve just has an ego. Fuck that. That has nothing to do with my ego, whether I'm right or wrong. By the way, I don't have one. I know people think that I do, but if they really knew me, that would not be the case. But even if I did, let's say I'm a stuck-up, conceited, narcissistic piece of shit. I'm Trump, for God's sake. I am Trump. I'm an authoritative piece of shit that knows nothing about anything. But if I tell you 1 + 1 = 2, guess what? 1 + 1 = 2. There's still an objective the matter fact
Nope,
we had.
Steve. Listen. Why is Steve
Big poop
talking all the time about ones and twos? Like, why isn't he talking about more interesting things if he really cared so much? And why does he talk so much? He's such a dick. He sounds so arrogant when he says so confidently that 1 + 1 = 2. What a fucking asshole.
X = X. Listen to Steve. He thinks X = S and X, and
Yeah, Icarus says, look at the trees. Yeah, well, there's a reason why, like, Steve doesn't really want to debate and talk with young Earth creationists anymore. It's just not really worth the time, because and flat earthers, the conversation isn't really going anywhere anymore. And that's the same thing with things like this argument. It's far more interesting once we can get past point 1. Like, and look how hard it was to get past point 1. We didn't even have to agree about it. I could be like, yeah, but I think this version has better utility, but now we can discuss the problems with it and why I should use maybe a slightly different version, or maybe I can adopt that strategy. Okay, cool. Now let's move on to the next discussion.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk to him, because he said he could show me I was wrong. I mean, he even said in the live chat, he's like, and this was the Duke debate, he's like, well, atheism's not a proposition. I'm like, dude, come on. And during the debate, he recognized that it was. So there was a conversion. It was, some converting going on, because he was recognizing, okay, yeah, these sources do say that. But yeah, I like to have better discussions in this crap. This is why, I just hate going back to square one. I want to talk about my gumball thing that I'll do in the next couple of days, right? I think the gumball stuff is interesting.
Is Randolph the doctor you were talking to?
He is not a doctor, no.
He's not a doctor, but he's, can you give me details? I don't
remember what he does. I just remember he's the head of the Atheist Alliance for Canada.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
He's one of your people.
Somebody. Hey, he's Canadian. He's Canadian. One of the things that I got a kick out of is, like, somebody posted on one of my streams, why the fuck does anybody care what Steve has to say? And I was just like, good question. That's a very good question. Go away. Like, if you don't care, why are you here? I put his name in the title. It's totally not clickbait, though. And then at the same time, I was just like, Steve, I think I said this to you off air. I said, Steve, for somebody who's, like, wrong all the time and is such an asshole and a complete dick, you sure get invited to talk to a lot of people in a lot of places. Jesus, what the fuck?
I'm going to be on The Place with talking to Michael Jones about prescriptivism, who I really like. We're going to be on the Canadian Atheist podcast again. We are in Drunken Peasants. I'm going to be doing stuff with Reasons to Believe. I'm going to, what else? There's some other stuff. I got another podcast I was going to be doing, but I don't remember what it was. I have all these things on my schedule. Yeah, it's really weird how, people want to have to hear what I have to say and invite me to go do a seminars in Texas and read my blog, and yet wants to listen to Steve. Okay, fine.
Steve's such a dick, so why would anybody, like, if you were such an asshole, do you really think anybody would want to work with him, or do you really think he'd probably, like, how much shit do I put up with, do you guys think? Do you guys think I put up with a lot of assholey bullshit?
I have no idea.
Because I feel like it feels like I probably be calling out shit pretty quickly.
I am not the one with ego here, okay? Trust me on this one. You guys don't know. It's not me at all. I don't wear the pants around here in anything.
I'm just saying, if Steve was such an asshole, do you
see that?
really think?
Can see this? I don't know if she can see that.
I can see that you're pointing at me. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you over my giant ego. All I'm saying is that if Steve was really that much of an asshole, do you really think I would put up with his dumb ass? Hell no, absolutely not. I'd be calling it shit left and right. Jesus Christ.
How much of an asshole can I be, around you and Sweet? I mean, for God's sake, man. I mean, it's just like I get reamed. I'm not an idiot. I mean, you think that they're going to put up with somebody who's narcissistic? Fuck no, man. It doesn't work that way. Sweet's not going to put up with that. And I know Cheshire won't, and Manya, she definitely won't.
We already have demonstrated that we won't.
Tomorrow she'll be going into that.
Oh my God. I can't. Tomorrow's going to, I don't know. I don't even know what's going to happen. Manya's pissed.
Manya's pissed.
Manya's pissed. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
You guys
And
don't know
like
what you're in for tomorrow. It's going to be a
I'm like
Manya. Well, Sweet has some things to say too. She's going to say some things too. So.
Oh my god, it's amazing. Oh god, tomorrow night is going to be fucking hilarious. What it's going to be a dumpster fire and it's going to be absolutely glorious. And I'm just like I'm totally hands off on this one. All I'm
Me
doing
too.
is like grabbing the clips. All I'm doing is like getting the screenshots. Basically, they're telling me what they need,
Chesh,
and then if they ask me to explain something, that's all I've been doing.
Chesh, the discussion you're going to be having tomorrow on that time of the month with Manya and Sweet, and I don't know if you're doing it with the Serrated
And Nikki, yeah,
and Nikki,
yeah.
okay.
Chris.
Do I have, and be honest, and if
Once she's going by once formally repressed.
once formally repressed,
Yeah.
have I have any inside information? What the fuck you people will be talking about? Have I been involved in any of your discussions? Have I asked to be? Do I give a
fuck
shit?
no. Why the hell would we ask you?
Exactly. I have. So whatever happens tomorrow, I'm not aware of what they're going to be talking about. I haven't been in any of these discussions. I am stepping back and I'll be listening like the rest of you because all I know is Manya's pissed. She wants to talk about some stuff. I mean, I do know a little bit what the discussion is going to be about, but I mean, what?
Well, yeah.
But I mean,
The
I'm not
best part
involved
about
in
it is
at
I
all.
think that for a while Steve disagreed with us. Is that I think the best for the first little bit, where it was just like he doesn't quite agree and he has his own opinion. So we went our separate ways.
I'm a man.
And he may or may not have changed his mind. I don't know.
I'm a man. Cut off my
He's not
nuts.
allowed. Kawasa for 5 says, well, I can't deny both Steve and Chesh can be a bit spicy at times, but that's why I support you guys. You guys can be an acquired taste.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. You know what?
That's fair.
Look, I'm never going to hold out the idea that I'm going to be any kind of big YouTuber. I mean, it's been 8 years. I'm not going to be anything big. But I made him. She could be a superstar. I don't give a shit. But I mean, I made him enough of a niche to say, look, on these topics, people generally consider me somebody who actually knows basics of the topics to discuss them well enough. And to inform people of them and explain to people. And when you look, I mean, in a nutshell, if you want to learn something in philosophy, and again, I am not an expert, but if you want to learn about this particular stuff, would you go to me or the Duke?
I wouldn't go to the Duke for anything.
No, I mean, or would you go to the Snake, or would you, would you go to anybody from the atheist community of Austin who doesn't get any of my positions right? By the way, there are people in the Discord over there that are really smart. The ACA Discord, I do like. There are smart people there, and guess what we have? We have step 2 and 3 conversations.
Whoa, we got past first base.
Right?
Woo-hoo. Steve's just trying to make out with everybody.
Why not, right? Hey, isolation, man.
Yeah, well, okay, so essentially, tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun. I definitely recommend heading over to my channel and alerting or whatever you need to do to make sure that you show up. It's at 9:45 p.m. EST. It's going to be glorious. It's a halftime of the month. Manya's all over this. It's going to be fantastic. I'm being as hands-off as I can. I'm like not trying to I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to, far be it from me to tell the ladies of this show that they can't talk about whatever they want to talk about on their own fucking show.
Yeah,
I'm
like
not
I said,
making any of
we're hands off on this, but it's going to. I do know enough to where if I think they're going to talk about what I think they're going to be talking about, the degree they're going to talk about is going to be a royal fucking shit. 100% not clickbait, and I mean
if you want to talk about how the women of
women of the
this
great
kind of this community don't put up with bullshit, shit's about to get real.
But you're a thought. Does it really matter what thoughts think?
Does it matter what thoughts think?
Yeah, try to say that 5 times fast.
It probably does. It should matter to you what thinking thoughts are doing.
Thinking about thought things.
Thoughtful things. Thoughtful thoughts, thinking about
thoughtful things.
Yeah.
Good. Can you remember that for later? Add that in your...
You want me to write it down?
Yeah, I won't remember that.
Somebody tweet that at me. Helios for 5 says I have to pick on Chesh to make sure that her ego doesn't get too inflated. It may be a work of passion, but still work. By the way, have you finished your roof? No, that'll happen on stream. Because you paid for it. Stupid roof.
All right. Well, anyways, we're going to wrap this up. So make sure you watch that tomorrow. I got some other stuff planned later on this week when Richard feels better. Randolph Richard. I'm looking forward to that. I was supposed to have Dr. Jonathan with me. He's not a doctor. He has a master's degree. Working on his PhD. Jonathan Ratz was supposed to come. Got fix that. I'm still going to try to get back Jess, I think we should probably try to reach out again soon to see if Scott wants to come back on. Clifton
Oh, absolutely.
would be kind of cool.
I almost feel like at the point where I might be able to understand what he's saying.
Point that
Yay!
out to him, But
I've been trying so
I've been
hard.
involving with him more. He made a good point the other day, though. I had made a little joke. I said Peronian skepticists are a bunch of know nothings, which I thought was a funny joke, right? Peronian skepticists, a bunch of know nothings. And Helios actually was the one that said something along the lines of I don't know what he asked some question, but Scott pointed out, was that an internal or external? Right? I was like, that's good because I think Helios was saying that Peronian skepticism makes no sense, and it depends on you're looking from an external or internal point of view, because Peronian skeptics basically says, hey, look, we don't even know if we can have knowledge or not. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, is there an argument for that? And there are arguments why we don't have knowledge, and if we don't have knowledge, why we don't what we don't know and we can't know. So
Right.
nothing is ever knowable, and that there are huge skeptics arguments for that.
Yeah.
Which I'm not going to get into because they're really confusing. But Scott asked a good question. So I mean, he knows these topics, man.
Yeah. Joe King asked, I like your name. It's Joe King. Joking. Yeah. They have a picture of the Joker. I want Steve to explain the difference between being a little bit pregnant and being pregnant. Would that be like the difference between agnostic and atheism?
No.
LOL. I think they're joking, but I think that would be a fun question to ask Scott Clifton. First thing right out the gate. Hey, is this the thing? See if we can get him with that.
No, I joke with him. He's a poor man's Skylord, whatever that guy's.
He is a charismatic man.
What's Skylord? What's his name?
Star-Lord?
Star-Lord, yeah.
Peter
Star-Lord.
Quill?
No.
Are you talking about the actor? Chris
No.
Pratt?
Yeah, Christopher Pratt. I'm like, why does everybody get you confused with Christopher Pratt?
That's some steps. That was some steps to get to that.
Christopher Pratt, yeah. I'm like, dude, I would say Christopher Pratt wants to be like you, dude. But whatever. I never watched Scott in any of his soaps. I know nothing about it. I know he plays like Dylan Quartermain on General Hospital. He was in Bold and the Beautiful, which I did watch for a while years ago. But I'm not interested in his acting stuff, and that's why we get along.
I just follow his YouTube and I follow his Instagram because he does some cool philosophy stuff on there. I just like listening to him talk about smart people things.
Right.
And I do my best to try and understand them. I have to rewatch some of his stuff because I think I know a little bit better more now of what he was trying to say. So like I watched it all, but I think a lot of it went over my head, and I think I would have an easier time probably understanding it a little bit more now, and I might actually have some appropriate questions to bring back. Instead of what?
Yeah, Mr. Chia, actually, Mr. Grip, Mr. GPT 2010. Can you read that because it makes a good point?
Why do you go...
something you brought up earlier, actually.
Yeah, why do you go on Modern Day Debates channel? There's no real debates on his channel, and his chat is full of toxic people. His mods hurl insults at everyone who's not Christian, and he encourages them. Or Steve.
Yeah, look,
or Steve. They also hurl insults at Steve.
I know some of the mods over there, and I do like some of the mods, obviously.
Some of the mods,
Santiago is a mod over there, and David Worley is a mod over there. Do I like the fact that he doesn't moderate toxic people? I don't like the fact that he doesn't. I think that toxic people in a live chat ruin the experience for other live chatters, right? And
it brings down the entire experience.
Yeah, I do moderate my live chat. I moderate my comments. It's not because these people have anything of value to say. It's that why would I let people that are toxic and want to troll have free for all? What purpose is that? I don't understand that, right?
I might be able to clarify that a little bit if you don't mind jumping in. Okay, so one of the things that we're able to do here, because the chat is moderated, is we can have discussions with you guys.
Yes.
We can let you guys ask questions, and we know we're not going to get sidelined or sidetracked because it's or sea lioned, or people aren't going to be like hurling shit at guests and stuff instead. So we can actually read your questions and talk about them back with you. And other people in the chat are nice to other people in the chat, so you guys can actually have civil discussions. And yeah, sometimes it gets a little bit salty, and sometimes it gets, but that's kind of part of the grab bag. We don't have people here that are legit. Like SJ was in here earlier, and nobody was like giving her a hard time for whatever she believed, or they'd asked her a couple of questions, but none of them were Yeah, none of them were inappropriate questions or unreasonable questions, and nobody was sea lining her or anything like that. If you need to know what sea lining is, it's essentially when somebody pretends that they're asking legitimate questions when they're just trying to waste your time. That's the TLDR. We did do an episode about it on Caffeine Corner, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago. So if you go check it back about a month ago, it should be around there somewhere.
I love that though. What is sea lining?
Oh,
As he
don't
sea
answer.
lining.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I
love
already
that.
did.
That's brilliant. I see what you did there, buddy. So I
You
didn't,
got
like I said,
me.
I haven't watched the debate. I didn't look at the live chat till the very end. Were the mods over there? Were they being fair? I mean, were they hate? Half his mods, I think, hate me, and the other half really like me. So I don't really know.
I'll give you an example. I can't go into that chat.
Well, I know that.
I can't. I sat there and
A lot of people say that.
watched the chat, but I couldn't go in and say anything or ask any questions because their chat, the live chat, was so abusive.
Right, but how was the mods? I mean, did they talk? Because a few of them I know are on, and they're in other people's. I mean, they're like
A couple of the mods that we know are full-on trolls were being full-on trolls.
Okay.
Not the most egregious like some of the people that we know that were in the chat, but the mods in there. As far as whether they were removing people or not, I don't know.
No, I'm
not sure about that part.
But I'm just saying that. Like I know Christy Santiago, she was a mod there, and she messaged me, thought I did a wonderful job. She was very proud and happy, and thought
I think I saw Little Miss Betty Page, but I wasn't sure if she was modding or not. I can't say I recall exactly. She might not have been.
Well, I mean, that's why we moderate over here. It's not because we're afraid of anything. It's that if, like Cheshire said, if we don't, we're not going to have the discussions we want to have, and that's the whole point. I mean, why are we going to waste time?
We'd never get past square one, which is exactly the problem Steve just ran into. He thought he was going to be working past square one, and he was back at square one all over again. It wasn't until the very end of the debate that they got getting into the point or the crux of the next steps of things like, oh well, what's the utility and whether or not it's useful, or is it
the
is
special
it a good
plating
thing?
argument? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We only near the end of the debate did we get there, and if you don't moderate and don't look out for that kind of stuff, you run into those kinds of problems. And in some cases, yeah, people sometimes just like a dumpster fire and they just want an unmoderated fucking free for all.
Yeah.
And if that's what he wants, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's not.
I agree.
We're not going to tell him he can't have
exactly.
it.
And Nikki P says, as is your chat on your platform, it's your right to moderate any way you see fit. There can't be debate on that. And I agree with you on that. And people use that against you. It's like, oh, look at Steve as an authoritative. No, it has nothing to do with that. It is like Cheshire said. Exactly. We want to have better conversations. We want to be better than the trolls, because those people, all they're giving a shit to do is try to promote toxicity. That's it. That's all they give a shit about. Toxicity. And they will use whatever means to try to foster that by deceptive means. Who has time for that?
The only reason I think there is a debate to be had sometimes about whether or not how somebody moderates their chat is if they're being contradictory in what they say and what they're doing. So if somebody says that, oh, I want anybody in here to try and tell me like information, and they block anybody who gives them information, then there's a contention there because you're saying you want this and then you're blocking anybody who does it. A good example would be Mr. Atheist. Off the top of my head.
Perfect example, right? I mean, he moderates for the fact that he doesn't want to get called out on his bullshit. Right? Because
which would, if he just wanted to do that and say whatever he wanted to say and just have his people listen to him, he can do that. That's fine. Preaching is okay. You're allowed to preach if you want to preach. That's okay. However, don't pretend that you're not. Don't pretend that you're having discussions and you're open to having those discussions and people who disagree with you when all you actually want to do is preach.
Yeah, because
it's fine to do either. Just don't lie about whether you're doing one or the other.
Yep. All right. I think this was fun after show, man.
Yeah, we actually got somewhere. That was exciting. And we have some new ideas, which is always good. I'm totally look forward to the idea of people bringing their arguments to us and then discussing them. We could do it as a call-in maybe if we want.
I'm totally down with that. We'll do that later on this week. I'm going to try to get some science stuff.
Probably not later on this week.
Okay,
probably won't be because we got to set it up and figure out the logistics.
I got some science stuff to do later up this week.
Steve's jumping the gun.
Get excited easily. I was so excited for this debate. I really was. I was like, yeah. Did I expect it any different? No. I mean, I was more scared of Chesh because Chesh said if I got wrecked and I made a fool of myself, she was going to spend hours on hours and hours explaining what I got wrong.
Yeah, probably about 5.5 hours if I could guesstimate based on previous experience of shredding somebody.
Oh, Mr. GPT is like, watch Standing for Truth and Praise. By the way, Praise was in there, Mr. GPT. Miss Praise was actually in the call with us doing that stuff in the background. The producing. I got no problem with praise, believe it or not. Standing for truth, I really don't have a problem with either. I think it's just fundamentally wrong, but I got no personal beef with either one of them. Neffy, I don't even think I have personal beef with him, if you really want to be honest. He's a non-factor. I mean, he's just, you know.
I think they're more talking about the debates that are actually. Your debate wasn't really religion based; it was philosophy based.
Yes.
You weren't trying to convince Snake that God wasn't real or that atheism wasn't true.
Oh, I see what they're saying. Those types of debates.
They're saying, yeah, I think they're referring to the more MDD general, not that particular debate.
Yeah, get that. But I mean, I've always been more fair. Mr. GPT knows I've always been fair. He's been around the GDC for many.
Yeah,
He's a theist.
I've seen him a lot. Yeah.
I think, isn't he a theist?
I don't know. Are you a theist?
I think he's a theist. But, you know, I try to be fair to theist. I mean, that's why when Esther comes around, I'm not going to have people dogpiling on her. Yeah, sure, I disagree with a lot of things she says.
Well, that was one of the reasons why you debated on when things went kind of. I guess she said something really inappropriate, and or anytime she was coming around on non sequitur show, she was getting timed out by mods, and you guys were like, no. So she had a wrench. Yeah, she had a wrench so that she wouldn't get kicked out because that was happening, and then I guess she said something bad, like something kind of awful, and so people were being like, why is she a mod on non sequitur? And then the reason was because she kept getting kicked out when she shouldn't have been getting kicked out.
No, I believe Mr. GPT. Look, definitely free being a mod. I'm sorry, that's just. I will tell James straight up. That's just dumb.
Well, we also had a problem recently with one of his mods who was just removing people, and he
got removed as a mod though, right? So
yeah,
definitely free should never be mod. That's a scare.
That'd be like modding Brett Keane.
Yeah. Oh God, I would be done. I couldn't handle it. I would be like, no, that's a deal breaker. Nephilim free, I don't give a shit, man. But I just think
I'm gonna give him a wrench on non sequitur show.
Stop.
You can't stop me.
Stop. oh, bad move, buddy.
Oh, that's the wrong move, buddy.
Wrong move, buddy. All right. What time's your show
he
tomorrow?
said bingo. Oh, yeah. So yeah.
What time's your show tomorrow? So we can wrap this up. What time's your show?
9:45 p.m. EST.
9:45 EST. All right, so that's
PM.
PM.
Not in the morning.
Yeah, PM. So 9:45 p.m. So that's going to be 6:45 Pacific time.
Yeah, I'll make sure that the link goes out early and have it like set up early tomorrow, so that way people have plenty of time to get in and out, and you should get the notifications if I set it up that early. So I'll make sure that goes out early tomorrow.
All right, guys, thanks for watching this. Leave a comment. By the way, send these videos out.
Give Keon a wrench.
Oh. You know what? I bet Cheshire probably would for her channel.
I considered inviting him on, but he's just been continuously being a little shit, so he kind of lost that opportunity.
When is he not? But watch the debate.
Make Keon the only mod.
And go leave some comments on that video of what you think. I like to read it. I'm going to be reading them as well. Hopefully it's about the debate, and then leave comments here what you think as well. And if it's the trolls, they're not going to get a response. So I mean, I want people to actually talk about the topic. So with that, guys, we'll see you guys tomorrow. And Josh, good night.